أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ورب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ذواتا أفنان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان تجريان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ومن دونهما جنتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مدهامتان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيهن خيرات حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان حور مقصورات في الخيام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحتك العصام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متوازعا اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاكته وانزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لقبائه ساطرا ولا لشيء من عمل القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرحت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فادح من البلاء أكلته وكم من عثار وكيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وخدعتني بالأغلال وحبسني عن نفي بعد عملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء أعملي وفعالي ولا تفزعني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملت في خلوات من سوء فعلي وإساتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأهوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور يتوفا إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعد أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفر مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في ساعة من رحمتك اللهم فأقبل عذري وارحم شدة ذري وفكني من شدي وثاقي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتقضيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذب بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لسان من ذكرك واعتقده ضمير من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيته أو تشرد من آويته أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوتان تعبدك طائية وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكسو يسير بقاه قصير مدته فكيف احتمال بلاء الآخرة وجليل الوقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقام ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحكير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي ليليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع عدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها زجيج الآملين ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولأبقين عليك بكاء الفاكدين ولأنادينك إن كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي وذاك تعمى عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يزج إليك زجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تولم النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحركه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم زعفه أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزر زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين عقته لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النهار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس وأجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدعا، وتتولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريت، أن تحب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت، وكل ذنب أذنبت، وكل كبيح أسررت، وكل جهل عملته كتمت أو أعلنت، أخفيت أو أظهرت، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظهم ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظ من كل خير أنزلت، أو إحسان فضلت، أو بر نشرت، أو رزق بسطت، أو ذنب تغفر، أو خطأ تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيدي ناصيتي، يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة، وبخدمتك موصولة، وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قوي على خدمتك جوارحي، واشدد على العزيمة جوانه، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في البارزين، واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وادنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، واجتمع جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بالسوء فارد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك مطيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأكلني عثرتي واغفر ذلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني منايا، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لي لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البقاء. يا سابق النعم، يا دافع النقم، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم صل على محمد رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. مجبور ہے لاچار ہے مرضی خدا سے بھائی نہیں جی اٹھنے کا فریاد و بکا سے کہ کریے سکن شاہ کے آنسو ہوئے جاری چھاتی سے لپٹ بائی کے زینب یہ پکاری اے سید مظلوم بہن ہو گئی واری میں جانے نہیں دینے کی پھرواؤ سواری تب جائیو جب جسے گزر جائے گی زینب حضرت نے کمر باندھی تو مر جائے گی زینب دکھیاری ہوں بھائی نہ میری آس کو توڑو صدقے گئی بہنا کو نہ پردیس میں چھوڑو برگشتہ زمانہ ہو پہ تم تو نہ موڑو مجھ سے تو نہ فرمایا کہ ہاتھوں کو نہ جوڑو محنت بھی کروں گی میں قدم پر بھی گروں گی سننگے مگر قید میں در در نہ پھروں گی نانا ہے نہ بابا ہے نہ ماں ظلم کی ماری کس پر مجھے تم جوڑ کے جاتے ہیں میواری فرماتے تھے سب بہنوں میں تو ہے مجھے پیاری سمجھو نا بہن مجھ کو میں لونڈی ہوں تمہاری دنیا میں رہے لاکھ برس آپ سلامت میں جانتی ہوں اے میرے ماں باپ سلامت اے بھائی جہاں جاؤ گے میں ساتھ چلوں گی جنگل میں رہو گھر کا کبھی نام نہ لوں گی تلواروں میں بھی پاس سے ہرگز نہ ٹلوں گی تیرے آتش فرقت سے تمہارے نہ جلوں گی اعداء کی لڑائی سے نہ ڈر جائے گی زینب کٹوا کے گلا تیگ سے مر جائے گی زینب. الفاتحہ مع صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sayyid Hasan Rizvi, my elders, brothers, sisters in Imam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all the names listed on the screen in Kul Arwahil Mumineen wal Muminat, Sawab al-Fatiha. Hayat Mayyajibun is requested for all the names listed on the screen and whoever is in need of it here and elsewhere. Let us all recite it together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibul mustarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su. Amman yujibul mustarra idha da'ah wa yakshifu as-su. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The managing committee is pleased to record the following engagement. Sakina, daughter of Ayman and Sajad Devji of Orlando, to Murtaza, son of Fatima and Mubin Maklai of Arlington, Texas. On behalf of the community and the management, we would like to congratulate the families and pray to Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to shower His blessing on the couple. Ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now I'd like to invite Sayyid to come forward and recite tonight's majlis, par Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة بعد الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا والطبيب ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's first start by looking at the Slido questions left over from last week. First person anonymously asks, out of all of the things that we have learnt this year, what do you think is the most important? That's a tough question. So I don't know if the person means in terms of what we've discussed through these various majalis, if they're talking about just generally in 2020, I'm not sure. In both senses, because I mean the next question's about what has the pandemic taught us, so I think maybe I'll leave the pandemic stuff for that question. As far as the information that we've been going through, let's say since we started back in April, the first series that we started was about adopting an Islamic lifestyle. One takeaway that I think all of us should try our best to understand and to try to implement is to recognize that Islam is not just some accessory that we throw on, right? It's not just like a belt or a jacket that we get to take off and on whenever we feel like. Islam is a complete way of life. It's a way of looking at reality. It tells us what is true, what is false, what is real, what is imaginary, what is good, what is bad, how to act, how to speak. Everything needs to be filtered through an Islamic lens. Everything has to be done according to a Tawheedi principle. If we can start to look in that way, using those lenses that Allah wants us to put on, then we'll start to see a lot of transformation in our life, in the small things and the big things as well. Imagine how much different our understanding of the pandemic would have been if we had, let's say, a stronger connection to Allah before everything started. Bringing us to the next question, right? In your opinion, what had this pandemic taught us this year? Well, definitely, I think the easy thing is don't have any expectations, right? Nobody could have expected this. I mean, yeah, there were some people, I guess, right, in the World Health Organization, CDC. Forget them. Generally speaking, most people didn't expect this sort of change to happen in society. We are so used to living our 9-to-5 kind of corporate zombie lifestyle. And we think and have this expectation that everything is going to go according to our plan. Even if we don't say it out loud, I mean, most of us right now, we expected that generally we would, we're coming to a Thursday night program. I'm going to sit and park outside or sit outside or come inside and I'll make it home. I should live, maybe a couple more years, 5, 10 more years, for the people who I guess are sitting here, maybe 20 more years. And for a lot of the younger people, they're thinking that, they'll go college, graduate, get married, get a job, family. They have these life expectancies. But as we've seen, especially throughout this year, young, old, healthy, sick, things have changed for a lot of different people. Family dynamics have changed a lot. The community dynamics have changed a lot. And our response needs to change. We have to change the way that we're thinking about things. So if we can find a way to start thinking outside the box that we've created for ourselves, it should, inshallah, give us a stronger 2021, inshallah ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, the next question. This is a hypothetical, but what if the Messiah, Imam Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif, comes and I don't follow him? I'm just wondering, it's not like I'm planning to do just that. I mean, nobody plans to not follow the Imam. We're all planning to some degree. Even somebody who's not religious, if you tell them, hey, and the Imam comes, and let's say you're convinced, you're going to join him, right? Like, yeah, of course. Everybody has that expectation. But as we just said, we need to change our expectations. So the person's asking, what if I don't follow him? Well, the way that it's mentioned in our narrations, the way it's mentioned by the ulama, and this is something that, inshallah, over the next few months, we'll be discussing it more in depth. But imagine somebody comes, the Imam comes, and what the narrations say is that he will relay the truth in clear words, in clear terms for every single person to understand. Hujjatullah fil ard. All of the A'immah alayhimus salam were like that. All the Ma'asumin. When they spoke in a way that would never leave any sort of doubt left in the person who was hearing it. None at all, right? So, when the Imam is coming and saying something to you, it should hit you and resonate with you as if you're hearing somebody say 2 + 2 = 4. It will be haqq, it will be the truth and you can't deny it. Unless, as we discussed, right, last month, or the past 2 months, unless a person is a kafir and they perform kufr, meaning they know and recognize what the truth is, but intentionally, through their own volition and free will, they decide to hide it. They deny it and reject it. So this is what this hypothetical person would be doing. That if the Imam comes, he explains the truth, he explains our duties, and we reject that, then we're rejecting the truth. And I don't have to tell you, we've all read enough Quran, we've heard enough speakers talk about hellfire and brimstone. We know what happens to people who deny the truth. If you deny the fact that when you put your hand on the stove, it's going to get burnt, then you're going to go put your hand on a stove, you're going to get burnt. There's no magical, metaphysical discussion or philosophical thing here. You deny the truth, you're going to get burnt. That's it. This is a natural system of cause and effect. Of course, if a person is looking for truth, then inshallah, this won't happen. And if we are sincere in our efforts, and us as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, hopefully after we learn a bit more about the Imam, his mission, the signs, all these various discussions that we will be having as we continue our series about the Imam, hopefully that'll give us enough of the theory that we can turn into practice, so we won't have that fear, we won't have that anxiety and stress or that doubt in our mind of whether or not we'll join the Imam when he, inshallah, returns. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. These questions came in such a nice order. The last one is, if the Messiah comes, what do we do? Do we go to him? Do we wait? Perhaps we'll be teleported. Please explain what we will have to do or what you do. I don't know. The details, inshallah, like I said, when we get to that, I mean, it's a long way coming. Not in this, I don't mean like the dhuhr is a long way coming. I mean our discussion on what we're supposed to do when the Imam comes, that's, a few lectures down the line, where it's going to take us a little while to get there. There's a few preliminary discussions we have first, right? Because I can tell you everything right now about what you're supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? Whether it's teleportation, or, as some people say, you take one step and we magically show up with the Imam, or, whatever it happens to be. All of that information right now, for most of us, sorry to be so blunt, is going to be useless. If we haven't prepared ourselves enough, we can know exactly what to do, but it's not going to be of any use. We can know all of the signs, we can know the exact message of the Imam, the voice that'll be called out, and the change of colors of the sky, whatever all this stuff is. What's the point if we haven't built up our spirituality? It's going to be useless because, as we said in the previous question, we're going to end up denying him anyway. We'll know exactly what to do, but we'll decide, well, I don't want to do it. So before we get to the discussion on what we're supposed to do when he comes, let's figure out who is he, what are the, what's the information surrounding the ghaiba, what's the point of the ghaiba, all these other preliminary discussions. After that, towards the end, we'll talk about, okay, now we'll get to the signs. After the signs, then we'll talk about, okay, the Imam now actually shows up. Step one, what do we do? Step two, what's going to happen? Where is he going to show up? And, how should we prepare ourselves for that? So we'll get there, inshallah. Hopefully throughout all of our sessions on Thursday nights as well. For every discussion, we'll try our best to give some practical tips, and we'll try to end with that. So at least we're not just fully, diving in and getting drowned in theory, right? It's always good to have, theory, but we want some practice as well, inshallah. And hopefully we'll have something that we can take away right after the lecture, inshallah ta'ala. Let's move on to our discussion then for tonight. If you can recite as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And just the last bit of logistics. So we're going to experiment with something tonight. Normally we've been using Slido for questions, and then we've been doing a quiz at the end. So for now we're keeping the questions, so you can submit your questions on Slido, right? But for the quiz, we're going to try using Kahoot, right? So make sure if you don't have the app, you have it now, right? Because you need a separate device so you can watch the presentation, and then you have your device that you can answer the questions on. So as you can see, everything's scrolling down there. The code is there. So inshallah, download the app if you don't have it, so we don't have to wait towards at the end, and log in, and then we'll start the quiz at the end, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. Let's recap last week's discussion, and then let's start our new discussion tonight, inshallah. So based on the response of the community, we started a discussion, and an ongoing series will be about our 12th Imam. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of topics. We wanted to introduce the idea first, right? So we took a look at the concept of Mahdawiyya, as it's called, right? Or Mahdiism, from two different aspects. We said this topic is both universal, meaning anybody can talk about it, anybody can discuss it. At the same time, it's particular and unique just to Shias. So we examine that from those two lenses. So universally, we said, having a Messiah, waiting for somebody to come and establish truth and justice, is something that at least all the Abrahamic faiths they have, and even other Eastern religions expect some sort of truth, some sort of end of times Messiah to come, some figure to come and lead mankind towards victory, to establishing a utopia on earth. We said, okay, we can understand that for religions, but what about atheists and agnostics and all of that? We said, look, generally speaking, every single human being is on a quest for truth. They have this hope and desire that mankind progresses, that we evolve, that we can build a society and a civilization that's established where we have peace, we have security, that truth is there. We have a society where people are progressing intellectually, spiritually, philosophically, scientifically, in every single regard, right? No economic distress, no health problems, right? Everybody's looking forward to that. And even if, let's say you have a very pessimistic sort of atheist, even if they say, you know what, we'll never get there. Society, we just go to non-existence, and I don't believe any of this, and we'll never know the truth. Even if they believe that, there is still, because they're humans, they have a fitrah, they have that divine theomorphic nature within them, they still have a hope. They still have this hope towards the truth. They wish that, I wish that the truth could be established. I wish that society could progress. So those hopes, those desires, we say that will come to fruition with the advent, with the coming, with the reappearance of the 12th Imam. Now, that was the universal side. The unique side, for Muslims, of course, is that we have a specific figure in the Mahdi. What makes us unique, of course, that separates us from our brothers and sisters in the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, is that we have a living connection to the Imam. We have a direct connection to Allah. No other religion in the world can claim this. No one else can do that. Other religions that claim that don't have a direct connection right away. They say, we have somebody, but we don't know if he's actually a real representative of God or not. Right? It's just something that we've kind of created along the way. And we hope that God accepts. We are the only faith that exists that say, no, God's representatives always will exist on earth. And we still have one. And he's alive. We know when he was born. We know his features. We know his message. We know his seerah. We have all this. We have all of his details. No one else can claim that they have details about their living connection to God. Even those who believe in, let's say, the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Okay, of course, the Christians believe in that too, just as we do. The difference is they don't have as many details as we do. We have the details, and of course we know that he'll be praying and following the Imam of the time. So our connection is, as the ulama say, it's concrete. We don't really have doubts, per se. Or at least we shouldn't. We'll get to why some of us do. We shouldn't. Everybody else has this abstract, kind of vague idea that, we need to follow the truth. Something's going to happen at the end of the times. But we say no, we've got every single detail. We can tell you from the Quran, we can tell you from the Ahadith, we've got everything listed for you. Now, of course, our question is, what are those details? Let's expand the discussion, and inshallah, we'll do that tonight. But here's the thing. Since we have, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, since we have a unique perspective, since we have a unique outlook, since we have beliefs that no one else on the face of this earth has, that means there are going to be criticisms and objections that only we are going to have to deal with. There's going to be issues. People will naturally ask us about a lot of things, about what we believe in terms of the 12th Imam, that I think a lot of us, we ourselves might be in doubt about it. It might be very strange for us. We might believe it because we were told it in Sunday school, but maybe that doubt still lingers in our mind, and we're hoping these things can get answered over these next few weeks, inshallah. So our first discussion tonight will be about just explaining the various objections and criticisms. If we get a chance, we'll continue and talk about the source of where these objections and criticisms come from. And then, inshallah, most likely next week, we'll start to reply one by one to each of these criticisms, critiques, and objections and issues that we find with the discussion of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala, Farajuhu Sharif. Salawat. So I think a lot of these, I'm just going to go through a list pretty much. A lot of these objections, I think many of you have heard, and many of you will probably be okay with, like, now it's not a real issue for me. I've got the faith, I've got Iman, it's not a problem. And a lot of them, maybe you haven't heard before, or maybe you've heard it, but the answer wasn't satisfying. Right? So keep all of these in the back of your head. Whatever ideas you have, feel free to share it on Slido. Again, we'll go through that inshallah, as we go throughout the week, because it's interesting to see how we, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, have been thinking about this topic. Right? It's good to see how we've progressed over the years. So the first one, I think, is the first issue that comes up to everybody's mind, regardless of their background, whether they're Shia, Sunni, or atheist. It's regarding the lifespan and longevity of the 12th Imam. How in the world can there be a human being who's alive for over 1,100 years? How is that possible? We've got no evidence. It's not possible. There is no scientific a possibility for this to take place. How can you get us to believe that there's going to be there's somebody alive right now who's been living for over 1,100 years? It's crazy. Even with all the faith stuff that you want to say, yeah, people can have Iman, but it should be reasonable. Living for over 1,100 years, it seems a little out there. It seems a little cooked up and far-fetched. Right? So that's one of the main objections. The second is this. Okay, let's say, fine, we get it. God suspended natural scientific law, and he kept his representative alive for, this long. Okay, fine. But what's the point? Why does God need to break these laws, have this sort of miraculous individual living this long? Why does he need to keep somebody alive and in hiding? Wouldn't it have just been easier to just have the person born later on when he needs to, become alive? What's the point of him sitting in a cave or hiding somewhere and just living there doing nothing? Right? That's a reasonable objection. I mean, if we were going to put somebody in charge, if we were going to create a representative on our behalf, what's the point of having him just live and sit and do nothing? Why not just say, well, when the time comes, then I'll send you out. Or at least in this sense. When the time comes, let's say the Imam is scheduled to come in 2021, for example, right? Why not just have him born right around that time? Meaning a few years before 2021 or whatever. What's the point of keeping him alive all that time? When, from the outsider's perspective, he's not doing anything. Right? No conferences, no seminars, no Thursday night speeches. He's not doing anything in that sense. Yes, I know there's this sun behind the cloud stuff. Inshallah, we'll get to that when we get to that. So that's the second thing, right? Third, okay, let's just say we recognize, all right, he's been living this long. Okay, fine. So God suspended the laws, no problem. You're telling me that somebody who was born 5 years old, now they run off and they're hiding from the rest of the world, right? They say he was about 4 or 5 years old when his father, the 11th Imam, passed away. So now, 4 or 5 years old, he goes and he's now in hiding, meaning he's cut off from, let's just say, the vast majority, 99.999% of human beings. Okay. If that's the case, how can somebody who's been completely cut off, no education, no training, no tarbiyah, nothing, how is that person expected to lead mankind? Right? Now again, I know you, the Shia, that thing inside of you saying, well, of course, they're imam, they're ma'soom, divine knowledge. Yeah, that's great. We're talking about objections that a reasonable person would give. Even somebody who's Sunni might give that. And they'll say this about any of the imams. Say, this doesn't make any sense because even for the previous imams, the other imams, they had their fathers training them when they were young. Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein alayhimu salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. They're with Rasulullah. They're with Imam Ali. They're with Bibi Fatima. They are in constant view and in training with 3 ma'asumeen. All of the other imams, they have a decent lifespan along with their father and sometimes their grandfather, right? Assuming that their grandfather is also an imam. And we have in many narrations that these special kind of nuggets and pieces of wisdom come down from their fathers and grandfathers. A lot of these narrations, right, we have this famous, golden chain narrations, these kind of things where my father narrated from my grandfather, narrated from great-grandfather, all the way up to, they go to Allah, right, Hadith al-Qudsi style. So we have all of this. So they're narrating on behalf of this too. But what is the 12th Imam, he's 5 years old and now he's gone. He's cut off from everybody. He's not with his grandfather and he's barely with his father. In 5 years, a reasonable person is supposed to expect that he's gained enough training and learned enough that he can guide mankind. He's going to be the leader of justice. Again, it seems a little far-fetched, right? Seems a little strange. And then, okay, somebody will say, no, he doesn't need any training. It was born with everything. Okay, so he's born with everything, ilmul ghaib, and God has just put it in his heart. Okay, most religious people can accept that, sure, even if you're not Shia, even if you're not a Muslim. Christians and Jews and people who believe in metaphysical stuff, they'll believe in that. Yeah, God can do whatever he wants, no problem. Okay, then why the delay? He doesn't need any training, so what are you keeping him away for? Why are you keeping him away from us if there's no purpose to keep him away? Because somebody could say, well, he's been kept away for this long so that he can go and learn and train for these many years, so he can understand society. Okay, if you say that, that's one thing. But of course, that's not our perspective. We don't say that he's learning and training and he's not like, taking these online courses. He's not doing anything like that. He knows everything apparently, right? By the permission of Allah. So then, why are you hiding him then? There's no purpose. It seems ridiculous. Next step forward, the fifth sort of objection is, okay, even if we accept everything else that we've said, all the other objections, where is your proof? We have no scientific evidence that a person can live, what's the oldest living person? Maybe 100-something years, right? 110, maybe 12, I think I've seen before, right? Maybe 120 or so in some societies. You want me to tack on 1,000 to that? Like that's outside the realm of possibility. So there's no scientific proof for it. Okay, show me some historical records. No, not your narration books, because that's obviously, that's biased, right? Where is this stuff in, let's look at least the Sunnis. They should have evidence if this is for Muslims. Sunnis don't have it, do they? Okay, let's look at other religions. Where is that? Well, it's not there. What about objective archaeological or historical evidence? It's not there. Okay, so then you just want us to, take, on faith, on good word, that there's a person who's over 1,100 years old who's going to show up and, stand for justice? Like, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. Why are you asking us to believe in something like that? This is way too much for any person to believe, if they haven't already been given these premises, again, in like Sunday school, right? And then the kind of, the last two is, one is, with all of this there, the sixth one is that you're making him sound like he's a superhero now, right? All these other ideas, this is way too much to accept. You're saying that he's going to be the hero, the savior for all of mankind. Now look, we have seen in history that there have been people who have risen up, and within their own societies, they have led revolutions. Okay, we've seen that in history. We've seen people, even who are elders, right? Scholars and leaders and political people. We've seen them do that. Okay, we can imagine that, right? We've seen various prophets of God come and lead revolutions. We've seen things in various different countries where people have changed the whole political landscape. Okay, we can believe that. But you want us to believe one person hiding away from us for over 1,100 years is now going to save all of mankind. His message is supposed to reach everywhere, and the vast majority of humans are going to accept it. Come on, how's that possible? There's other factors that lead to making a change in society. Yeah, it would be nice to say that, he just comes out and says the truth and we all believe in it. And that's when all of society is going to become this utopian civilization. But we've seen history. We know exactly what happens right now. That's not how humans work. That's not how societies and revolutions, and that's not how politics has ever functioned. There's all these, there's bureaucratic stuff you have to deal with. There's logistics. There's scientific limitations and, physical limitations. There's obviously economic issues that are going to have to be dealt with. Social media propaganda. There's a lot of other factors that have to be considered. You're telling us that one person is going to stand up and just going to say the truth and everybody's just going to magically accept it, when the whole vast analysis of history says otherwise. That in order for these people throughout history, these leaders, to make changes, there was a lot of stuff they had to go through. A lot of small changes needed to be made in order to make one big vast change, even in their own local area. But you want us to believe one person gets up, zero training and all this stuff, and then just magically all of humanity changes. Again, very, very strange. And then the final and seventh issue is, as far as his method is concerned. How can he practically, if he's going to stand up against the oppressors, against the zalimeen of the time? Okay, he's going to stand against those who are committing injustices. One person is going to stand against those who are armed with nuclear weapons, who have these bunker buster missiles, who have armies at their disposal, who have a whole media campaign which is designed to discredit other people, who can put economic sanctions and ruin people's lives. Like, these are, things that governments do. Societies will do that. And this can halt movements. This can halt civilization moving forward. What is the 12th Imam, your 12th Imam, what is he equipped with to fight against this stuff? He's going to, again, sorry for being so blunt, but this is what the responses that come out. He's going to pop out from a cave, and then what is he going to do? Just, like Professor X, just like stop, or Magneto, like just stop a nuke with his mind and like throw it away? Like, what kind of Hollywood movie is this? This is ridiculous. Now, some of you might think, oh, these objections, they have simple answers. These are not so simple to answer. A lot of these answers are only going to come from if you have a belief in Shia theology. But other people will say, rationally speaking, scientifically speaking, intellectually, this is impossible. This is not going to work. Which brings us to our discussion that we're going to end with tonight. Where do all these objections come about? So please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So first one was clear. It's rationally strange. Even as Shias, sometimes it's like, I have to put my aql, I have to put my logic, my reasoning, my intellect aside for a second, and we have to take a leap of faith. That's the only way a person can believe in somebody who's this old, who's untrained. who's going to perform these miracles, who's going to lead mankind. This takes a leap of faith. I don't think we can deny that. But it's very tough to accept this with normal, rational, logical, intellectual principles, right? So, I mean, it should be no surprise to us that an atheist or an agnostic, or even, let's say, a quote-unquote intellectual, rational Muslim will say, this is ridiculous. And this is why even some Shias reject this sort of concept of the Imam. Because their aql, their rationality, comes before everything else. They say, look, it's irrational for a person to live this long. Even if they see the narrations, they say, look, aql, logic supersedes everything that we see in the Quran and Hadith, so toss those aside, they're inauthentic. My aql reigns supreme, my logic knows better, so this has to be a metaphor. It has to be an analogy. And you'll sometimes see individuals come and say, all this stuff is actually talking about you and me. We are the Mahdi. We are the ones who are going to rise up, and we have to do this ourselves. These are some of the theories that come out from somebody or some individuals, sometimes academics or scholars, making up these sort of theories because they don't want to rely on the Quran, on a Hadith, and they'd rather stick with science and logic and reasoning over the narrative principles. So that's one reason why people are going to object and have issues, on a rational, intellectual, scientific basis. Another reason would be a spiritual, psychological reason. And this can show itself in two different ways. Look, it's very clear, especially 2020, it was a tough year. This year sucked. It was really rough, right? This was not easy. Even for those who, let's say, alhamdulillah, did fine or okay economically, were secure, haven't been sick yet, haven't had to deal with, let's say, loss, whatever it is. Or even those who, let's say, were able to keep their iman strong, regardless of what happened. It was still tough. There was a lot of tests, one after the other. And so many times, as we, I think back in April, we had a session about, the end of times, COVID, is this it? Like, is the Imam going to pop out with a vaccine now? Like, what's going on? So a lot of people thought, okay, we know that the Imam is going to come when the world's in despair and we see oppression happening in every single country. I mean, if people here in this country can be devoid of water, there's something wrong with the world, clearly. I mean, we always talk about the third world and, we have to build them wells. I mean, there's people in Flint, Michigan who still don't have proper water. So, I mean, this is a very, very strange world that we're living in right now. A lot of people constantly being oppressed, not just in the Muslim world, not in the East, but here in the first world, people are struggling as well. So when we have that sort of despair, that leads to a spiritual and psychological skepticism. Look, things look like they're going to hell on earth. Things don't look like it's working out. And I don't have hope in somebody coming and saving us. I'm just so pessimistic. I'm so jaded by all of this that, you know what? Yeah, fine, I believe in the Imam, whatever, but practically I don't really have faith. I don't have iman in that anymore. We're spiritually, psychologically tired. And I can't blame most people because it's been so tough. And when we look out, especially in the Muslim world, a lot of us have developed an inferiority complex. Because even if we talk about zalimeen, oppressors, well, they seem to be doing very well in terms of science, GDP, their economy, their security. All of these quote-unquote oppressive countries, they're doing great. All the quote-unquote Muslim countries, or countries that are trying to do the right thing, they seem to be doing terribly. Sanctions and economically failing, and people are being oppressed, and human rights violations, the whole world is against them. Why does it seem like the whole world is doing great, the oppressive world, but the oppressed, or the ones who are failing at basic survival in the world, it's the Muslims. Like, we're doing the worst in the world. It seems like we're on the losing team, doesn't it? It's going to lead to pessimism naturally. And it's going to lead and create an inferiority complex. Like, look, I want to be on the winning side. I don't want to be with these losers who can't even, as people used to say in Iran to me, right? Because people would always be surprised whenever they would find out I'm from America. No, they say, why would you leave heaven? Right? They say, why'd you leave Jannat and come to Iran, which is hell? That's what some people would describe it as, right? Especially the ones who are irreligious. They say, the Hawza, these ulama, these mullahs, these guys can't even create, one little aspirin. Like, the rest of the world is building science, technology, medicine, they're all ahead in all of this stuff. And you guys are sitting here with your fiqh and your ahkam and your useless philosophy. Ugh, what a waste. A few people, I can't say the majority, but a lot of people in Iran, they have this sort of idea. And I don't blame them because they were jaded by what they saw around them. It's tough. they can build that inferiority complex, right? Not everybody was like that, but some were, unfortunately, right? So this is sort of one way of looking at it. And the other one is this, I think, and this is probably the issue that most of us face. It's the misconceptions and the misinformations that we have about the 12th Imam. Specifically regarding the signs. We've heard so many things over the years that, these countries will be at war, or these countries will be in turmoil. So-and-so individual will rise up, and this flag, and this guy will do this, and this color will happen. Or apparently what was going around in social media, right, months ago, was that a plague will start, coming all throughout the world. So everybody said, that means the Imam's coming then. What's interesting is that this has happened almost every single generation. People have been looking at and interpreting the signs of the coming of the Imam, and then they're like, okay, Imam, we're waiting, and he doesn't show up. So what that causes a lot of them to do, a lot of us to do, is say, you know what, maybe this stuff is fake then. Maybe this is not true. Just like those sort of cults who thought, now for those of you who are old enough to remember, right, Y2K. There were so many individuals, so many cults, even techies like futurists who were like, you know what, everything's going to collapse. You'll see what happens, right, when the clock strikes 12 on January 1st, 2000. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. So all those cults were like, oh, I think we signed up for the wrong cult. So many of us might be thinking, where's the Imam? Am I in the right cult or not? Because some of our scholars, unfortunately, they describe our religion as a cult, right? I don't describe it as that, but some of these speakers just say that Shiism is a cult, whatever. Well, that's a problem. If we have all of these signs and the Imam's not showing up, well, what does that mean? Well, one thing is that all the stuff is made up. It's fake. This is not the case, and we're following the wrong religion. We're being made fools. The other side is that maybe we've completely misunderstood what these signs are supposed to be. Maybe a lot of these things are inauthentic, and unfortunately, misinformed, uneducated scholars and speakers and zakirin have been going around without proper information and misleading the general masses because they've been explaining things when they never should have been. They've been talking about subjects that they weren't trained in. And that's messed up the minds and hearts and souls of a lot of people because it built up their hopes, especially because we hear people, and I heard it a lot, even in Qum. Oh, the Zuhur is right around the corner. It's going to happen. You'll see it. This is the time. You see what's going on? It's going to happen right now. And they've been saying it for years and years and years. So what's that going to do to somebody? It's going to destroy their iman. It's like, well, you said right around the corner. You've been saying it constantly. Well, right around the corner was 20 years ago. We're way past that corner, right? We're gone now. Well, what's happening here? A lot of this stuff is based on misinformation. Inshallah, when we get to that discussion, we'll talk about what has been misunderstood in terms of the signs of the reappearance of the Imam. And also, of course, which is a major issue for many of us to discuss, is there something that maybe the Imam was ready to come and we ourselves as Shias have blocked him off based on what we've been doing, how we've been thinking, and how we've been progressing, or rather not progressing as communities. Inshallah, ta'ala, we'll be moving forward with these discussions in the coming weeks. Next week, we'll start with the discussion on responding to all of these various objections. So now we'll move on to the Kahoot Quiz. If you can recite as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's hope everybody downloaded on time and we can log in and get started right away. If it worked. What do you say, yes or no? See, I was bigging it up and I was building it up, and now your iman's going to be shaken too, right? Because I told you all of this, and then now, if it doesn't work out, then, see? Everybody's going to lose hope in me. Let's see. No? Oh! Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Hasan. Okay. Okay, but nobody's logged in. Okay, so hopefully, go, log in. I think most of you should have the app, right? Because most of you have been using it. So log in, type in the code. All right, here we go. So salam alaikum to Saint Nick, I guess. Am I supposed to say salam to him? Salam alaikum to the specialists. I can't see the thing from here. Ya Mahdi. To all of the Khwajas, apparently. Jafar. Al-Jawad. What are those two letters? I can't see. Does that say RC? RC, huh? Okay. Yusuf Ali, BMJ, Muhammad Jan Muhammad, Hasnain, Ali, Plato, Hasan. Not Imam Hasan, Muhammad Abbas. Well, let me put in the pin. Let me jump in here too. 5, 7, 4, 5. Okay, I think let's get one more, and then I think we'll jump in. No, I don't count. I'm RA. Come on, one more person, jump in. Aha, thank you, Qamber. Ahsan. Okay, let's get started. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good luck, everybody. Okay. First question. How old is Imam al-Mahdi, ajalallahu ta'ala, farajul sharif? No, I'm not reading. Oh, I should be reading them out, right? I mean, people, if we're looking at the screen, I guess they should, but oh, now the time's up. But yeah, I should probably be reading them, right? Okay. Okay, let's see. I think, Mazahir, you have to go next. Yeah. Okay, so, oh, I got it the fastest. I probably shouldn't participate. Okay. I'm not going to answer anymore. Huh? That's QA? Oh, that's not me. Okay, QA, good job. Specialists. Okay, let's see if the changes for the next question. All right, let's go. Next question, and I'll read it out loud now. Okay, so next one is also a quiz, but this is a multi-select for those of you who know how to do that. Who will accept Imam Mahdi alayhi salam as the savior of mankind? 12 are Shias, sincere Muslims, I can't read my own answers, righteous Jews and Christians, or atheists who are, Hasan, thank you, who are seeking the truth. Remember, it's a multi-select, so it's either some, it's all, it could be none too, depending on how I trick you. And the answer was all of them. Ahsantum to everybody who got, what is it, 5 people who got all of it? Ahsan. So, specialist has jumped up with Ya Mahdi following behind. Ahsan. Okay, let's go to the next one. We got one more left actually. The last one will be a poll. True or false? There's a double point, so let's see. The word Mahdi means the one who guides. True or false? Blue is true and red is false. What does Mahdi mean? The one who guides. Is that true or false? Uh-huh. 7 of you said false, which is correct. 8 of you, the majority of you said that it's not. I'm not going to give you the answer. We're going to wait and we're going to add that next week, inshallah. Okay, now here's a poll. It's not going to determine who's the winner, but so we had a choice this time. Slido or Kahoot? What do you want to do for next time? Which one do you prefer? As far as the quizzes are, at least. Okay. Oh. It's barely a win, but whatever. All right, we're going to do Kahoot. I mean, it's more colorful. I think it looks nicer, right? Okay, let's see who won. 3rd place, St. Nick. 2nd place for silver was Ya Mahdi. And 1st place, I think, was QA, right? Let's see. Was it QA? Specialist. Ahsant. Okay. Ahsant. Okay. So, I think this looks nicer, right? Than just Slido. Slido seems a little boring, right? This is nice and colorful and it's all jumpy and happy. Although I don't think we can use this on like a shahada. Obviously, it's a little too much, right? Unless they have like black background with like the blood font and things like that. Then we can do that, but we don't do those things anyway on that. Anyway, inshallah, next week, we're going to continue the session and series on the topic of the Imam of the time. We have to go through the responses that you'd also given on why people, and remember we made that poll on Slido, why is it that people don't accept a Messiah? Why do they reject that? And then we'll start to answer one by one all the different objections that we had raised tonight. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli bayti tayyibin at-tahirin. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا صار الله وابن صاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونحيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سميت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلام الشامخة والأرحام المتحرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام بر التقي الرزي الزكي الحادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة ولا أحل الدنيا. وأشهد الله ملائكته وأنبياؤه ورسله عني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم مؤكن بشراع ديني وخواتم عملي وكلبي لكلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبه. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن حسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سميت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله ووداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن السيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم الإسلام وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقوبهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. ولعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامد الناصر ولق الدافع عن أخي المجيب إلى طاعة رب الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم السلام عليك جميع ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا صاحب الزمان الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد.